Bula Boxing fans, I've been thinking about doing this video for quite some time now, and with a lot of the fights sort of coming into fruition soon, we can have some exciting fights over the next month. Canelo, Munguia, Fury Usyk, 5v5, Beterbiev, Bivol, the August 3 card with Crawford and Israel Madrimov, and then we got a potential card in Wembley, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. There's just so many wonderful fights that will be happening in the next few months. 2024 is probably going to go down as one of the greatest years in boxing you'll probably see in a long time. I hope this is a start to many wonderful fights that we'll see. I hope that Turki Al-Sheikh continues to have this influence over boxing. But what I wanted to do for today's video is do something a little bit fun, which is tell you my top 10 favorite boxers of all time. And I'd love you to leave a comment, your thoughts, where you would rank them, and what your top favorite heavyweights are. So these heavyweights, I'm going to rank them from 10 to 1 in terms of being my favorite. So they're not necessarily ranked in order of how good they were. I might do that in a separate video in terms of where I would rank them in order of greatness. What I'm going to be doing is ranking them in terms of favoritism for me. Who were my top favorite boxers of all time, the top 10 boxers of all time. So I'm going to refer to my book here. As you can see, I've got some notes, and the only reason I'm going to be referring to this is I'm just going to be referring to it when I'm talking to you about their records in terms of what they've actually achieved, wins, losses, knockouts, etc. So let's begin. I'm really excited about this. My first one, so I'm going to go from 10 right up until 1. So at number 10, I have the former 2-time world heavyweight champion, former lineal and unified champion, Big George Foreman. George Foreman, also the oldest heavyweight champion, winning the title at 45 years of age for his second title reign, defeating Michael Moorer. Big George had a phenomenal record. Big George fought 81 times, had 76 wins, and from those 76 wins, he had 68 knockouts, 1 draw, and 5 losses. George Foreman has more knockouts than the top 10 heavyweight boxers today have wins, including Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk, Joseph Parker. Those are the top 5 right now. You can even throw in Zhang as well, and it's the same thing. He had more knockouts than wins. Now, I know that obviously he did fight a lot of journeymen along his way, but he beat the likes of Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, and many, many others, Michael Moorer. He was just an incredible fighter. And I think, George Foreman, especially his second title reign, was just phenomenal. Like, when he first came out, he took the world by storm. He looked like an impossible person to beat. He was like the original, Mike Tyson. The first big man standing at 6'4", and it came down to Muhammad Ali employing a strategy that we had never seen before, tiring out the big man, and he was not knocked out because of a punch. He was knocked out because of pure exhaustion. He had nothing left. He probably used all his glycogen stores, and he had nothing left. So yeah, George Foreman at number 10. At number 9, I've got the former WBC World Heavyweight Champion that went on a 5-year title run, Olympic bronze medalist. You're going to get this. Deontay, the Bronze Bomber, Bomb Squad Wilder. I never used to be a Deontay Wilder fan because obviously I'm a big Tyson Fury fan. So there was that, kind of animosity towards Wilder leading up to those Fury fights. But after the 3 fights with Fury, I saw a person who was a warrior, who would go out on a shield. And I just saw someone that was so inspirational, especially if you look at the backstory for Wilder, why he got into boxing. He did it because his daughter, his first daughter, his eldest, suffers from spina bifida. Now, Deontay Wilder basically took up boxing when he was 18 years old. He was really a basketballer, and you can tell with his build and his skinny legs. For him to progress and achieve so much in what he has done, with not much amateur experience, albeit then going to the Olympics and winning a bronze medal, is incredible. Deontay Wilder has had 47 fights, 43 KOs, one of the highest KO ratios in heavyweight boxing today. He's only lost 3 times, 2 of them against the same guy, which is Tyson Fury, and one most recently against Joseph Parker, and he's had the 1 draw against Tyson Fury. But Deontay Wilder, he makes it onto my top 10 list for favorite boxers of all time at number 9. At number 8, we have the current unified world heavyweight champion, the former undisputed cruiserweight world champion, the former Olympic gold medalist at the 2012 Olympic Games. You guessed it, Alexander the Cat Usyk. Many might not know that actually Alexander Usyk does have an alias. He is Alexander the Cat Usyk. And you'd be unwise to imagine why he is called the Cat. This guy has the reflexes of a cat, obviously, but he has the reflexes. He has better reflexes than I've ever seen in any other boxer, bar a prime Muhammad Ali. He is incredible. His angles, his footwork, his ring IQ, his determination, his drive, his work ethic, his humility. He's just a great all-round boxer and a great all-round ambassador in person. And I wish him nothing but the best. And I cannot wait to see his fight versus Tyson Fury. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. But Alexander Usyk, top man, top boxer, comes into my list at number 8. At number 7, we have the former WBO World Heavyweight Champion. One of the hardest workers in boxing, one of the most improved boxers of recent years. A real throwback fighter that is in today's era, one of very few that will fight anybody. I'm talking about it. Number 7, Lupe Soliai Ole Maliatoa, Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker has had 38 fights, 35 wins, 23 by knockout, and 3 losses. Yes, Joseph Parker makes it onto my list at number 7, and he is an incredible fighter. His notable wins are Andy Ruiz for the WBA World Heavyweight title, and That was in 2016. I actually had the privilege of watching that fight at the Spark Arena here in New Zealand. We may never ever see a world heavyweight champion coming from New Zealand ever again, unless Joseph Parker wins it. And we certainly may never ever see a world heavyweight champion from New Zealand in New Zealand being ever again either. So I was part of history then, and I'll remember that. So well done to Joseph Parker. I think I may have forgotten with Alexander Usyk, but he has had 21 fights, 21 wins, and no losses. He's undefeated. So just retracking back, I realized I didn't give the cat Usyk's props or flowers around his record. So you've got it there so far. Number 10, George Foreman. Number 9, Deontay Wilder. Number 8, Alexander Usyk. And number 7, Joseph Parker. Coming in at number 6, he is the former 3-time world heavyweight champion, the former Olympic gold medalist, the former and last undisputed heavyweight champion. You guessed it, Lennox the Lion Lewis. Lennox Lewis was one of my favorite fighters growing up. I remember his fight against David Tua and his fight against Mike Tyson and his fights against Evander Holyfield as my favorite fights to watch. Lennox Lewis was incredible. He had that ramrod jab. He had incredible ring IQ, good footwork, and many people may think he actually didn't have a chin, but I thought he had an incredible chin. Yes, he was stopped twice, but out of all his fights, he was hit quite hard in many of those fights. And in the 2 fights that he was actually stopped, there were punches that he just didn't see, and it caught him flush, and that can happen to anyone. But he was the only one to have beaten every single person that he faced in the ring. He had the privilege of rematching the 2 people that knocked him out, and he actually stopped both of them in the rematch. And that was Oliver McCall and Hasim Rahman. Oliver McCall, he basically had a mental breakdown and walked out of the ring. And Hasim Rahman, we knew in the rematch, he knocked him out clean. For the first fight, Lennox Lewis was too focused on making a Hollywood film. I think he was on, I can't remember the movie now. Yeah, it was one of those famous movies with all the different, stars that come together. But yeah, he was on that. So Lennox Lewis, his record, 44 fights. He had 41 wins, 32 by KO, only 2 losses that he rectified, and the 1 draw, which was a controversial draw. We all know that one against Evander Holyfield. So Lennox Lewis, Ocean's 11. Yeah, he was in one of those Ocean's 11's movies leading up to the first Hasim Rahman fight. And yeah, I don't think he trained at all, and he got found out. So cool. Coming in at number 5. This person is an inspiration. I have so much respect for this fighter. He is the former Olympic, well, actually, no, he didn't win. I think he's a bronze medalist at the Olympics. He should have been gold, but he lost by disqualification to actually a New Zealander. He is the former undisputed cruiserweight world champion, and he is the former undisputed world heavyweight champion. And that's Evander, the real deal, Holyfield. Evander Holyfield had 57 fights. He won 44 of those, 29 by KO. He had 10 losses, all towards the back end of his career, and 2 draws. When he moved up to heavyweight, he was undefeated. And he was just a phenomenal athlete. He lost in the Olympic Games to Kevin Barry, who went on to become the coach of David Tua and Joseph Parker. And it was the most BS disqualification there was. Kevin Barry even said that he felt so guilty he doesn't claim that as a victory over Evander Holyfield. Holyfield actually dropped Kevin Barry during their Olympic boxing match, and then was winning on points. And then what happened was they had a tie up, and then the referee said for them to break, and Holyfield didn't quite hear, threw another punch. Because he threw that punch on the break when the referee said to break, he was automatically disqualified. Now, we're talking in the 80s now, so back then, the rules for amateur boxing, Olympic boxing, were a lot more, it was more strict, as you can say. And so, unfortunately, Evander did lose that match. But look, in the big scheme of things, what did it matter, right? He went on to become probably, in my opinion, the greatest cruiserweight champion of all time. I would say he was undefeated, and he went up and beat big guys like Riddick Bowe, Mike Tyson. He drew against Lennox Lewis. He was just incredible. Absolutely incredible. So, Evander Holyfield comes out at number 5. At number 4, we have a former Olympic bronze medalist, a guy that is very special to me, a person that whilst he never became a world heavyweight champion, he beat 5 world champions during his professional boxing career. Some of them he beat before they would go on to become world heavyweight champion. And I'm talking about David the Tuaminator Tua. David Tua was a phenomenal fighter. For me, the best left hook from a heavyweight that you will ever see. His left hook was so powerful, so fast, and responsible for knocking out 5 former world heavyweight champions. David Tua boasts a record of 59 fights, 52 wins, 43 knockouts. Similar to Wilder, actually. And 5 losses with 2 draws. Also, one of the very few heavyweights that you will ever see that has never ever, in all of his professional boxing fights, been knocked out or stopped or had a technical stop or retired on a stool. In fact, David Tua was only dropped once in his entire career, and that was right towards the end of his career, and that was against Monty Barrett. I did a video on David Tua. If you haven't seen that, please go out and check it. It's had so much love, so much views, and I think my second most viewed video, well up to I think 1,200 views. David Tua was phenomenal. He has been training really hard in the gym. I believe he's keen for a comeback. He would like to fight the winner of Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. And I just wish him all the best. He's probably one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. Outside of the ring, inside the ring, an absolute monster. And had he had better management and people around him, he would have been a world champion. For me, still, the greatest boxer, heavyweight boxer New Zealand has ever seen. David Tua. For me, New Zealand's GOAT. At number 3, this guy is the epitome of boxing for me. You know, he is kind of what really got me into boxing at an early age. My brothers were into rugby. My brothers were into cricket. My dad was into cricket, league, soccer. I was the weird one out of the family that loved boxing. I didn't really care too much about rugby so much, even though I played it at school. But for some reason, I just really loved boxing. And I would come to find out later from my mum that this comes from my grandfather that I never met because he died before I was born. This is my mum's dad. And my mum's dad was actually an amateur boxer, and he just loved boxing, and he used to have little boxing drills, and he would teach his son, my uncle, boxing, and he was a big Muhammad Ali fan. So I guess maybe that's where it comes from. But this person right here is what really got me interested and hooked on boxing at an early age as a kid, seeing him. And once I saw him, then I would go and start looking at all the different greats and all the other different boxers, and I would, go into the library and I'd read about them, buy books and rent out books, and then rent out old videos, that you could get from the video stores, and watch the classic boxing fights. But this guy here, he is a former undisputed world heavyweight champion, the youngest heavyweight champion of all time, a two-time world heavyweight champion. He is none other than Iron Mike Tyson at number 3. Mike Tyson boasts a record of 58 fights. 50 of those were wins. He had 44 knockouts with only 6 losses and 2 no contests. And the bulk of his losses came towards the end of his career, where he was essentially a shell of who he really was. Controversial, said and did a lot of things that weren't right, went to jail, was never the same when he came back from prison. The Kid Dynamite Mike Tyson during the 80s, people were already defeated before they even threw the first punch, before they even got into the ring. His fight against, what was it, Michael Spinks? Now, Michael Spinks had been beating everyone. He was undefeated. He was such a skilled boxer. I don't believe he fought ever again after that fight with Mike Tyson. I think he retired. It was like a boy versus a man, and yet Mike Tyson was still quite young when he beat Michael Spinks. So Mike Tyson for me at number 3, absolutely incredible. At number 2, this is going to be controversial, this one. Based on recent feedback on my videos and comments, and by the way, I love the comments, I love the feedback. Whether you love a fighter or you hate a fighter, it doesn't matter, because you know what? It shows how passionate we are about boxing. And I would welcome you to say what you feel about boxers. But just a word of caution though, when you do say something about a boxer, make sure that you do say it and back it up with some facts. Like, if you're going to say a boxer is useless, you got to give some reasons why you think they're useless, because I can tell you what, mate, just to get into the ring and actually fight professionally, it takes a lot of skill. So that's the only thing that I would caution from my comments. But anyway, this person here, he is a 2-time former Ring Magazine heavyweight champion. He is a 2-time world heavyweight champion, former unified world heavyweight champion, current WBC and lineal heavyweight champion, undefeated, has won every single belt in boxing there is, from European, British, Commonwealth, world, all the different world heavyweight belts, not at the same time, but has won them all, and has a cabinet full of all his belts lined up. And that is my recent hero, someone who basically got me to fall back in love with boxing during that horrid reign of the Klitschko's. And that is Tyson, the Gypsy King Fury. I started following Tyson Fury just before the lead up to his fight with Klitschko back in 2014. He's leading up to that fight. The reason why I'd kind of fallen out of love from boxing is because no one could beat the Klitschko's, and they were the most boring, for me, methodical fighters. And it kind of got boring when the opposition that you could see they would fight against just threw nothing at them. They had no challenges, and it become easy. And it was like these two brothers were dominating and wouldn't fight each other. And then this young, brash talking, hilarious, bipolar, crazy person comes out and says that he's going to do the impossible and go to Vladimir Klitschko's own backyard and beat him after he hadn't lost for 10 years, and he did everything he said he would. Then he would go into a 3-year hiatus, balloon up to 400 pounds, which is around 200 plus kgs. Depression, alcoholism, cocaine, suicidal thoughts. Come back, lose all that weight, have a few lead-up fights, then go on to fight probably the most devastating puncher of all time in boxing, and draws in the first fight, which everyone knows he won, and then absolutely destroys him in the next 2 fights, and then goes on to reclaim his throne as the WBC champion. So Tyson Fury, for me, at number 2, boasts a record of 35 fights, 34 of those victories. He's had 1 draw, he's had 24 knockouts, and he is undefeated. The current WBC lineal heavyweight champion, Tyson the Gypsy King Fury, at number 2. And finally, my number 1. My number 1 for me is not just, for me, my favorite boxer of all time. He will probably make many, many hundreds, millions of people's favorite top 10 boxers of all time. He'll probably make people's favorite or greatest persons of all time. This man here is an absolute legend. He is a former Olympic gold medalist. He is a former 3-time world heavyweight champion. He is a former undisputed heavyweight champion. He is the greatest Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali boasts a phenomenal record. He had 61 fights. He had 56 wins, 37 via KO, with only 5 defeats. His 5 defeats, many of those came again towards the back end of his career. Muhammad Ali fought everyone and pretty much beat the greatest in his generation. He fought and beat Joe Frazier, Sonny Liston, George Foreman, Kevin Norton, who was Ernie Shavers. I mean, the guy was incredible. Absolutely incredible. He, for me, is not just the greatest boxer of all time for me, but the greatest ambassador, human being. This guy made a stand to not go to war. Now, my personal beliefs, I would never go to war either, because of my religious beliefs. And what he did back then to make a stand for his faith. It's just... And, you know, he never lost his belt in the ring. He was basically stripped because he wouldn't go to war. And then for him to come back, go through the adversity, and to still win was just... it was something special. And for me, Muhammad Ali is, and it will always be, my inspiration. And he will be, for me, my number one until the day I die. Because, yeah, if there's three people, I saw a video today with Carl Froch and Tony Bellew talking, and one of the questions on there was, if you gave dinner with three people, three famous people, who would it be? I can tell you who my three would be. Number one would be Muhammad Ali. Number two would be Michael Jackson. And number three would be Brian McKnight, because obviously I'm a musician and I do singing as a side hobby, but that's something completely different. And so, yeah, so that is three people. So yeah, Muhammad Ali would be the three famous people that I would like to meet. So yeah, so there it goes. There's my top 10. I'll run through it again. At number one, Muhammad Ali. At number two, Tyson Fury. Number three, Mike Tyson. Number four, David Tua. Number five, Evander Holyfield. 6, Lennox Lewis. 7, Joseph Parker. 8, Alexander Usyk. 9, Deontay Wilder. And 10, Big George Foreman. Thanks for watching. I know this video has gone on for a little while, but I just wanted to break this down with the top 10 heavyweight favorite boxers of all time for me. Let me know in the comments who your top 10 is, who are your favorite boxers, and maybe what I'll do is think about doing another video leading up to this is, in my opinion, the top 10 greatest heavyweight boxers of all time in terms of achievements, legacy, records, etc. Thanks again for watching. Drop a comment, like, share and subscribe. And as always, you're watching Sirim Bale's Boxing and Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. Vinaka, vaka, levu.